up, guys? Pete Johnson with Tatuaje Cigars. Here with the man, the myth, the legend. And we're going to have a conversation.
Yeah. So, for those that don't know, the Tatuaje brand, how did it come about?
Oh, man. Tatuaje, I never knew it was going to be called Tatuaje. When I started in the industry in 1993, I eventually had this vision and goal to make my own cigar. But I kind of lost that dream after a brief period of time, and I went to the Dominican Republic, tried to get someone to make me a cigar, and they always wanted to put my band on their cigar. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be more part of the project, more part of the whole process. And I waited, and I gave up the dream. And in 2003, I met Pepin Garcia, and I became his first client. And I didn't know what I was going to call the cigar, but I had a nickname in the business, which was Tattoo Pete. And I got that nickname from a lot of the greats in this industry, in this room today even. And I was like, how do you say tattoo in Spanish? I didn't know.
Okay.
And I asked a busboy at the Grand Event Room, I go, how do you say tattoo in Spanish? He told me, and I go, can you spell it for me? Because I couldn't even pronounce it. I actually thought that Tatuaje, I needed a Spanish name for a cigar.
Right.
And now I do use tattoo also, but Tatuaje stuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that first cigar.
The first
Let's
cigar.
talk about that.
First cigar that Pepin rolled me, I didn't like. But then through a brief conversation, I gave him an old Cuban cigar to smoke. And he sat back down with the exact same tobacco, and he rolled me a cigar that was almost identical to that Cuban cigar. I go, that's it.
What was the Cuban cigar?
Juan Lopez Petit Corona. Oof. Yeah, I had a box of Juan Lopez Petit Coronas that were super good. That I was like, these are smoking really good. I know this is a good cigar. I'm going to give this guy one to see what he thinks. And he was like, oh, I know this. And he sat back down and rolled me that cigar.
So doing what we do,
yeah.
A lot of us like to break into the industry, maybe start our own lines, our own brands. Tell us about how you broke into the industry and what process, what steps did you go through to get there?
My process is it's got to come from me. Like, it's got to be part of who I am. And I make cigars for me to smoke. I don't make them as a commodity. I make them to smoke. The bonus is when someone else likes them. And then it becomes a business. But it has to be here. Because if I don't love it and no one else likes it, I'm still stuck smoking them all. So they better be good. So they better be good for me. Yeah, again, the bonus is when other people enjoy them. It's like a song for a musician. Mm-hmm. You write that song because you wrote it for you.
Right.
The bonus is when other people want to sing along to it.
So walk us through your process. You're at the farm. You want to come up with a new blend. What does Pete Johnson do to create what we enjoy so much?
It's all trial and error. It's all trial and error. I don't pay any attention to the farm. I go to the farms with the family, but that's not my job. I let the masters do that. The factory is not mine. I work in the Garcia's factory till this day. So when I go into the factory, I go with a concept and idea in my head of what I want. And I usually go to the chief of production and I tell him the basic blend that I need and the wrapper that I need. And then from there, I just start trial and error.
Okay.
Like, I never make a cigar that I'm not going to make in the line. If I'm not going to, if I go in and say, oh, I'm going to make this new line of 60 ring gauges, and I go in and I try a Robusto, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
I make whatever is in the set plan for that line. I make every size in that line, and I see if every one of them is performing the way I want them to perform. So I never go in like, oh, everybody has this thing like, oh, you have a Corona Gorda. You always smoke Corona Gordas when you blend. I'm like, no. I blend all the sizes to see if I like all the sizes. If I don't, we make minor tweaks to make sure everything stays within that formula.
Okay.
But yeah, it's trial and error, and it's really just knowing this blend. You know, these blends from Miami since 2003 so well. I can go in and dissect this up and down and go, I wonder if I should take the Ligero out and see what and replace it with a high Viso instead, or Ligero out and get rid of a Viso and put an extra Seiko. So it's really about testing, seeing what really pops, on my flavor profile. And unfortunately for the factory, I'll do that multiple times and then wait multiple months and make a few more cigars and test and test and test. And then eventually I'll put an order in with the factory. But a lot of samples.
A lot of samples.
A lot of samples.
Let's move to lines. Cojones.
The Cojonu.
The Cojonu line.
Cojonu. Cojonu so is a word short for cojonudo. Cojonu slang, but it's a slang word anyways. Cojonudo means you have balls and know how to use them. When Pepin was smoking a cigar with me, that I said, I want that cigar that you made me. In the Grand Havana room that day, you made a cigar that had a lot more kick to it, and it had like blue smoke coming out. I want you to make that cigar again. And he goes, what size? I said, 6.5 by 52. So we made it. We sat in the room in Miami. We were smoking, and Pepin mentioned, he goes, este tabaco tiene cojonudo. Este tabaco tiene cojonu. And I said, well, what's that word he said? And they're like, no, it's a dirty word. Cojonu. It comes from cojonudo. It means ballsy, or how you have balls. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to call the cigar cojonudo. They're like, no, you can't do that. And I go, why not? They're like, oh, it's a dirty word. I go, no, this is going to be the name of the cigar. Right. So ultimately, I kind of bucked tradition a little bit, and I called it Cojonu, which people in Miami, when they would see it, would laugh their asses off. Anybody who speaks Cuban would be like, you call a cigar Cojonu? Like, it's pretty funny. But it become a signature of our lineup because the Cojonu has a little bit more kick and full body to it. So it's worked out well. Yeah.
Stand in the lines, because we got a bunch of different ones, but one of them that I know is special to you is the Monster line.
Yeah, man.
So let's start with that.
The Monster line's been a little bit of a nightmare over the years. I mean, it's funny
No
I
pun
say
intended, right?
When I started the Monster series in 2008, I started with Frank. And everybody that was around me thought I was crazy for doing a cigar in a coffin-shaped box.
Fresh boxes.
Like, what's it based off? I go, it's based off of monsters. That's why we call it the Frank, the Drac. We don't use Frankenstein, Dracula, and all that stuff. It became like a big part of our portfolio. The first year, no one wanted them because they're like, what is this? But those first ones became like the biggest collectible item. So I know people that have boxes that have sold them for $2,000, $3,000.
Yeah.
For a box of 13 cigars, which I think is nuts.
Has a cult following.
But it's become a big part of the portfolio to the point where it's its own brand. Like, it's really its own brand. But I've also had troubles with it because there's a big beverage company that uses the same name. And they think that they own the trademark in everything.
Right.
So they've cost me a lot of money over the years by sending me letters.
Cease and desist.
And I've had to deal with, not cease and desist, just letters like, you need to stop using this shit. I'm like, you don't own the brand in cigars. I do. Like, that's my property. So I've also, in turn, have protected it on my end, too, because it cost me so much money to protect on my side from these other people that if I see someone doing something similar, I have to at least say something to them. Luckily, with our industry, we kind of talk to each other.
Okay.
We actually have communication between companies, and I can actually say, hey, you mind not doing that?
Right.
Instead of getting a letter and a lawyer together, which I hate. I hate the lawyer aspect.
Anything new from that line this year?
Yeah, the Monster Smash.
Okay.
The Monster Smash, 14 different cigars, but all the same size. 5.25 by 52, box pressed, 14 different blends. So the 13 monsters, and then the one monster we never did a full size of, which is called the Creature.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just for those that don't know, when does that typically come out?
That's going to be around August, September.
Okay.
It's a big production. It's 13,000 units.
Okay.
So 13,000 boxes, but I want to have them around for a while.
And the number 13 means something in the line too, right?
Yeah, just because of, you know, unlucky, you know, and so when I did the Monster Series originally, the whole concept of, you know, the cigar was that it's going to be $13 for the full size, and it's going to be packaged in a box of 13. So we used to do a thing called Unlucky 13, and we'd have 13 retailers around the country that would get access to them first. We stopped that, but we still kind of do it loosely, but not as crazy as we used to. But that's where the concept of 13 comes from. But it's only on the full-size monsters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else new from the line this year?
Yeah, I mean, we got the Kohonu 2015 and 18 out in broadleaf. And then I have a couple cigars that have been aging for almost 5 years up there that were supposed to be for my 50th birthday, which was in 2020.
Okay.
And I decided that I'd hold on to them. And December of 2024, I'll release these cigars. They're rolled by one roller in Miami, 510 count boxes of each one. And they'll essentially be 5 years old by the time I release them.
You have a name for them?
Not really.
About?
They're the
Okay.
50th Escasos, and one's called a Robusto Especial and a Toro Especial. Yeah.
A couple more and then we'll get you out of here.
You're
We
good.
got to talk about one of your passions.
Wine.
Let's
It's
talk about
purely a passion. I started collecting wine when I was younger because I worked next door to a French restaurant. I'd go over and sit with the bartenders, and they would teach me about wine and teach me about like what wines to buy and like what were good prices, and oh, those ones will age really well, so put that aside or drink this. So one day I went to this place in Bordeaux, France, and they actually help people make wine that don't have a chateau and they don't have vineyards. And it was a fun project. I did it for 5 years, but it was really to test my blending skills.
Okay.
It was really a way for me to express a new thing. And it never became a business because I didn't want it to be a business. It became a vanity project. You know what I mean? So we drink it with friends and family. That's it.
That's it. Not for sale.
Not for sale.
Only way you can get it.
I
is
sold
for
a
the man
few
himself.
bottles to my club members. So we have a club called Saints and Sinners.
Okay. Yep.
And many years ago, we offered some bottles up to those guys, and a few guys bought in on them. But, you know, they're expensive, and I was like, you know what? I did it once. We'll hang out and drink the rest together.
Saints and Sinners. Is that registration open? Closed? How do you get in?
You get in with a referral from another member.
There you go.
Luckily, you know me. It's a one-time-a-year buy-in, and then we do the membership somewhere around May, June, and we ship the kits. We make a kit for everybody with a bunch of different things in it. That comes out in around September, October.
Okay.
And I think it's a cheap date, actually.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
it's a great value for what you get. Plus, part of that money that we raise with Saints and Sinners goes to the CRA, Cigar Rights of America.
Awesome. One more.
Yeah.
Wine and cigar pairings.
Dude, it's all personal.
Okay.
Yeah. I could tell you that wine goes great with a cigar that I make called La Verite, because I've drank many bottles of wine with La Verite. But to the next person, it's not going to be good.
Right.
I could tell you that a Cabernet is good with this style cigar, but ultimately, it's up to you. And it's up to you, and it's up to you. If you like wine with cigars, find your perfect pairing. Don't listen to anybody, because ultimately, with anything in life, like the cigars, the best cigar you're smoking is the one in your hand. I can tell you I make good cigars, and I believe I make good cigars, but you might not like all of them. But the best one's the one you're smoking. So when you're drinking a drink, drinking a glass of wine, drinking a cocktail, and it's good for you, that's all that matters. Because don't let anybody sway your opinion on what you love and what you like. Because it's about individual, not me telling you what's good. Always be yourself.
And on that note, I think we'll end it there. Thank you so
No,
much.
man.
The man, the myth, the legend,
Thank you,
Pete
bro.
Johnson.
Peace, guys.